Looking to make some healthier habits this holiday season? Make sure to check out our Moving Through Midlife community over on Facebook, as we are doing a Planksgiving event where we are doing daily plank workouts. We will be doing an Advent for healthy, happy hips this holiday season, and then also have a sugar challenge, a 2-week sugar challenge that you might be interested in. Happy holidays!
Welcome to Raising Healthy Humans, a podcast created for busy moms, where you can easily find information on health and wellness for your family. Enjoy experts who share tips on how to raise children through each phase of life. Gather current information on nutrition and wellness, and listen to Courtney, a health coach, movement specialist, and founder of FormFit, an active and supportive community where she helps busy moms move more. On Raising Healthy Humans podcast, Courtney shares her personal life experiences, training, knowledge, and conversations with other health and wellness experts so you can raise healthy humans.
Today, I am speaking with Candice of Learn Feng Shui to help us create more calm in our home with the practice of Feng Shui. She speaks to us about how we can create an open and calming energy with where we're placing our furniture, how we should be placing our bed in the bedroom, and then other things that may be affecting the energy in the home. I really hope you enjoy this episode. Hi, Candice. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm so glad you are here and you are able to talk to us about Feng Shui. So can you tell me, how did you get started with Feng Shui?
So the reason I started, me and my husband were actually having a lot of relationship issues, I think as all marriages kind of go through, and it was actually his suggestion. He was like, we're trying all kinds of different things. We've always been kind of alternative in our beliefs and open to, different things. And he was actually the one that was like, hey, have you ever heard of Feng Shui? I heard it's supposed to, improve your environment. It's supposed to bring you harmony into your home. Maybe that'll help with our issues, And so we were kind of trying to figure things out on our own. And it was through meeting my Feng Shui consultant. We found a consultant, she's in Utah. It was through me finding her. She offered a mentorship program. And since I just was really interested in it, I thought I really wanted to learn more about it. And so I've just kind of been hooked ever since. Okay. It's really became my passion.
So do you feel, did it change a lot in your relationship by doing some of the things that they recommend with Feng Shui? Feng Shui?
So that is actually one of the biggest lessons I learned, I think, is that you can move things around your home and it can feel better, but you also have personal energy that needs to be addressed, and sometimes it works in a little bit roundabout way. And so instead of focusing on, making an area better or putting certain items out to improve my relationship, there was other work that needed to be done there.
Okay.
So then there was other areas of the house maybe you can focus on, and you can have an environment that supports your action. So I always tell people it does work, but action is also needed.
Yeah. And I think isn't that like with everything that you can fix one area, but there are other areas. It's really a roundabout thing, like with fitness. You can work on fitness, but you also have to address your nutrition, your sleeping habits, and all of those other things. So I'm sure with Feng Shui, it's the same thing.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Can you tell me, if we're thinking about creating a relaxing environment in our home, how would we begin with that? Like, are we looking at the entrance of our home to start? How do we start to kind of create that calm in our homes?
That's exactly right. The purpose of Feng Shui, a lot of people don't realize, it's actually looking at the way your environment supports you. So, kind of putting aside the notion that we kind of have, or the idea we kind of have of Feng Shui and, saying we need a Buddha here or we need a fountain here. Feng Shui, which I practice Eastern classical Feng Shui,
Okay.
which is all about the way your home receives energy. And the way your home receives energy is through the entrance. And I think all forms of feng shui kind of follow that. And so just having your entrance to be not blocked,
Okay.
people tend to put decorations up and maybe I've seen it where they overclutter their porch with oversized furniture, things like that. You want to really have a nice, spacious, open entrance. So, kind of maybe scaling down some of the decor right outside of the entrance and directly right inside is where the energy is said to collect. So, yeah, just creating a spacious environment.
Okay. So I'm thinking of my own house and I'm thinking, so we have two doors. We have our front door and our garage door that both kind of come together. Um, so we need to make sure that furniture throughout both of those are okay. And then for those people who have like a mud room, because we have like an area where the children put their backpacks and their shoes and everything, how should that be? Like, should we be concerned about the mess and if things aren't put away properly? Does that affect anything or no?
Not really. Again,
Okay.
feng shui is kind of it's the collection distribution of what is called qi or energy. And
Okay.
so as long as, I mean, clutter can kind of stop some of that. So, I think people get a good hook kind of on like, oh, my house needs to be like super tidy to have good feng shui or needs to be really organized to have good feng shui. But in reality, the way your door opens, it's the way you kind of receive the energy, the area of the home that
Okay.
your door opens into kind of tells a lot about the energy. And so, although we want it to be, kind of clutter free and clean, it's not the main focus. So I always say do the best you can.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
supposed to
And
fit into your life, not kind of rule it, if that makes sense.
okay. Okay. Is there any colors or anything that you recommend, or is feng shui specifically more about like the furniture and space?
So it's more about the way you are using your space.
Oh,
So
okay.
the way I kind of explain it is the home can be broken down into different like sectors. And there's based on just the geographical like so you can break it down to like north, south, east, and west, and
Okay.
that's kind of getting into, some of the specifics there. But your home receives and collects energy in certain ways. And so really the way you use your space, you want to have a nice flow to your home. So although there are some consultants that focus more on colors and stuff like that, it's not the main consideration. I don't believe when doing feng shui, at least not from my perspective of feng shui. It's
Okay.
really about the way you're using your space, how furniture is set up. Yeah.
Okay. And is as long as it's working for your family, is that okay? Or is it there's still certain things that you like to have? I mean, you keep saying open. So I would imagine the more open, maybe the less, would you say less furniture is better or
Well, it kind of just, again, it kind of just depends. So, for example, my living room, you do want it to work for you. My living room, I have an aerial hammock set up because I have some back issues. And so, to incorporate that into my life, you probably know with fitness, you want to have it accessible for you to use. And
right?
so, what I say is there's definitely some rules you want to follow with feng shui.
Okay.
But as far as having things really work for you, yes, I believe that you need to have it where it's going to work for you. Like you don't want to put stuff away that you use every day, just to have it aesthetically pleasing. So again, looking kind of more about how we're using that space is
Okay.
really important.
Okay. So if we think of our children's rooms, and we're wanting to, and maybe I need to separate it out. So you let me know. If I want maybe a more calm or creative atmosphere for them in their rooms, is there something specific we should be doing with that space, or what would your recommendation be for our children?
Well, one of the most important features in feng shui really is bed placement.
Okay.
So there are certain kind of rules for bed placement, and that can vary. But one of the biggest things that a consultant will tell you in any style of feng shui is that a bed is supposed to be up against a solid wall. You
Okay.
should be facing a door, not with your back to the door, because
Okay.
that creates, if you think about the energies coming right towards you. So you don't want to be directly in line with the door either, because that can create some restless sleep. You don't want a window behind your bed because that can
Oh,
again create too much movement behind you. So there's some different things like that. A headboard's really recommended for a good night's sleep. So if your child doesn't have a headboard and you notice they're kind of restless, maybe that's, could be a cause. You could probably add a headboard to their bed. And some kids I notice will tend to sleep sideways on their bed. I don't know if you've ever noticed that.
uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And sometimes they're just kind of naturally drawn to the direction that they feel more supported in. We do have what are called sometimes they're called power directions, best and worst directions. And it's not required we sleep within those parameters. Really, the way the bed is set up, the location of the bed is probably most important. But sometimes kids will tend to move themselves around. And so I would just let them sleep the way they sleep if they tend to do that.
Okay.
So that's,
No, I
oh,
was going to say, I find it interesting that you just mentioned this because I remember years ago that I had heard something, and I'm going to say it wrong, but that like your head should always be, and it was like either north or south or, whatever. Is that something that because it's tend to believe, because you did say like was that the power poles or something where your position is based on wherever you feel direction?
well, there's many different thoughts and schools,
Okay.
styles of feng shui. And
Okay.
some people do believe, I think more of like the Eastern and kind of Indian, like Vastu traditions do believe that you're not supposed to sleep. I believe it's north to south. I'm not really sure. So
Oh,
there's different schools of thought on this.
okay.
And so depending kind of on who you talk to, but kind of what I was referring to is everybody has what is called a gua number. So it's the belief that you have four directions that are beneficial to you and four directions that are supposed to be unlucky to you. So that's kind of what I was referring to. And that's kind of based on the year you're born. And it's probably one of the most popular styles of feng shui. But so, yeah.
Okay. So is that information we could find through you on your website, or is there somewhere where we could look into that? Because I find that that's very interesting.
Yes, I do have an article on it's called Eight Mansions Feng Shui. So I do have an article on that on my website. I can shoot you. So we can put that
Okay. Yeah.
put that
We'll
in the
make
link.
sure to
Yes.
put that
But
in the show notes.
it is pretty readily available. Like I said, it's probably one of the most popular forms of feng shui because it's probably seems to be the easiest to use. But again, I always tell people there's kind of this rule in feng shui that says forms before formulas. So the eight mansions, the power directions is more of it starts getting to what is called the formula feng shui. And so forms really, I tell people to start there. And what that is really is the way your house is set up. Those kind of feng shui rules, face a door, your back to the wall, those type of rules. So it kind of just talks about your supportive environment and the location in which you're sitting. So
Okay. Now for the bedroom, is it are you really thinking just bed for the purpose of this, or do you then go into looking at like their desk if we want to think about providing creativity for them? Is there things that you recommend for that as well?
there is, yes. And
Okay.
so again, we follow some of the same kind of principles. When you set a desk up, if you notice, I have a wall behind me. I usually don't work in this direction. This is my aesthetic direction that I record in. So because it has all the aesthetics behind it. And so I work with my back is set to the wall. Again, that says to offer support. You want a nice supportive chair. But if you want it to get more in detail, you could start using some of those, the quote unquote best and worst directions, because there is one that enhances creativity. So yeah, you could definitely start tapping into some specific energies, and some of those can be even specific to the person. So
Okay, I was going to ask that. So you said some will depend on the location for opening up creativity. But is it based on, like you said, the year you were born? Like each person has an individual direction?
They do. Yes, they
Yeah.
do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and then you also mentioned about desk placement, which I'm finding this is funny because I was just speaking to my husband about aesthetics and how my space that I work in is not aesthetically pleasing. So I was discussing moving my desk completely. And like you mentioned, I want a wall behind me. But then that means my desk is sitting out in the middle of the room. Is that he was like, that's going to look ridiculous. But you're recommending that for feng shui purposes, that's a good thing.
Yeah, you could always try it. You can definitely try it. And if you hate it, again, sometimes you have to kind of work on what works for you. If
Okay.
it's really been working for you and you feel like, even though it's kind of violating maybe some of those feng shui quote unquote rules, remember there's always exceptions to the rules.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, there's a saying that says a feng shui practitioner will know all the rules, but a master knows the exceptions to the rules. And so it kind of just depends, and that's what I'll say. But yeah, you can definitely try it.
Okay.
And if you hate it, and it's not really working for you, maybe you're in a good direction again, some of those power directions. Maybe you're actually facing a good direction for you and it just happens to be working for you.
Okay. And when I think about this, do you find yourself, and maybe you haven't worked with like an interior designer, do you work well with them? And do you find that your ideas conflict, or are they more kind of in line with one another?
There's a lot of feng shui practitioners that do interior design. Like
Okay.
maybe they've gone to do interior design. They're like, I want to add feng shui principles to it. I've worked with some too. And there really is a lovely balance in there. I mean, I think most interior designers, they want to create some sort of sense of harmony and balance. And
Hmm.
although the feng shui I practice, it's more about the use of the space
Okay.
as opposed to what is in it. Um, it's you still want to have it to be aesthetically pleasing, you want to be calming. We're talking about the kids rooms, and asking if that's all we want to consider. We do want to consider, colors and stuff like that, because there are colors, at least using color psychology, that are said to be more exciting. If you put reds in a room, it's going to be more energetic looking, and so using some of those calming colors in the space we want to, feel calm, can really be beneficial. And interior designers, I think, are, for the most part, they've been on board with it. And again, there's a lot that do feng shui type of design, and
Okay.
it looks really lovely.
Okay. Do you notice with families, is there any rules that we should all be um, aware of with families?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? My son was
Yes,
waving
okay.
to me.
I
I was like, he was telling me bye. I'm sorry, could you
No,
repeat the
that's okay.
question?
So for families, is there anything that we can, like rules that we should be aware of in regard to our home?
Not generally for a family. I mean, you can get pretty specific with each family member. Again, there's a lot of factors you can consider. But again, I think just having that nice flow there. One of the schools of thought and perspective of feng shui kind of looks towards the east area as what is called a family area. And so it's a place where you could, locate the east part of your home or your living room or your living hall, and you can maybe put family pictures there. There's also an area that is said to govern relationships. You could put family pictures in what is some schools of thought refer to as the relationship area. So there's definitely some things you could do to kind of, I always tell people, because from the perspective I come from, it's again more about tapping into specific energies. And so I don't tend to follow some of the areas of what they call the life areas within the home.
Okay.
But what I tell people is, if they want to do that, they can definitely look at as an intentional reminder, like when they see the family pictures there, or maybe they want some feng shui type items, and they can use that as an intentional reminder to kind of serve as, let's create harmony in the family. Let's remember to, gentle parent or whatever they're trying to do.
Okay. Is there any items that you would say to make sure you don't have in your home? Like if I'm
So,
thinking, go
mhm.
ahead, you could.
I know people tend to love a good garage sale, and it's not so much what they're putting in their home, but what kind of energy they're bringing in with it.
Oh,
And I know I've talked to people that they're like, specifically one lady, she got a painting at a garage sale, and she was having activity in her home afterwards. And so she realized later on it was actually like a Celtic warrior goddess that was like, this painting. And so I think she did some sort of cleansing to it and the energy calmed down. So I will say be careful of secondhand items. And if a lot of people tend to like, oh, they're going to pick up like a Buddha or, they're going to pick up, something to, place in their home. And what I've heard also, and this is more of like kind of a Taoist perspective on things, if you don't connect with that deity, if you don't feel like it's kind of lucky. I know most of them are smiling, but if you have one that has like a mad face or stuff like that, I always say don't bring those into the home. So
okay.
yeah, if you feel good about it, bring it in, but also be careful of those secondhand items as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you mentioned about the energy of things, because I was just listening to a podcaster and he was speaking about how there's this other realm that we haven't tapped into to understand about the energies that are surrounding us. So just hearing you say that makes me realize like how much we don't even know.
Exactly. Yeah. And sometimes we don't know where things come from either. And, what sort of, what the energy was of the person that was holding on to that or what it meant to them. So I do believe items can carry, different types of energy. So,
Okay, so for families, like I know my family, we have a lot of pieces of furniture and things that have kind of traveled down through time with us. If there are pieces like that in our home, and I mean, we could assume it's okay as long as we don't feel any negative energies, right? And
I'd
then
say so, yes.
if you do feel a negative energy, there's a way to create less of that negative energy.
Yeah, there is ways to go about that.
Okay.
I myself don't really perform that for people, but I
Right.
know you can do the classic sage. There's a sea salt, and sometimes just getting rid of the object altogether and kind of, or maybe even burying it or burning it. Sometimes if it's particularly strong, then you
Okay.
don't want to pass it along to anyone. So yeah, you don't want to, give it to Goodwill.
Right, right. Okay. Now you had mentioned a relationship point in our household. For families, what I have noticed over time is things change in the relationship. Is there anything that you recommend for, and you had mentioned that's kind of what got you into the feng shui. Is there anything that's recommended for us for the two individuals who are together to continue to keep that grounded?
Yeah, there is. So there's different energies you can kind of tap into. Like I tend to tap into some of the yearly energies. So energy is always changing, it's always moving. Just like we have different seasons, different energies will come into our home. Really based on planetary alignment. Some of these energies come
Okay.
in based on the planets. And so you can kind of tap into some of those energies. There's actually ways you can activate an area. And usually those kind of include using water, because water is it's supposed to conduct energy. It's in the name Feng Shui, it means wind and water. It's
Oh,
said that water is collects energy or chi. So there's different ways we can kind of activate or hold chi or energy in an area to promote different energies, and some of them you can tap into relationship energy, love.
okay. With the fountain, do you recommend having some sort of water in the home?
I do, but again, as a classical feng shui practitioner, I'm very careful about where I place water because you don't want to activate an area that's Doesn't need to be active. Just like there's this really good energies you can tap into. Sometimes you don't want to collect energy in an area that has a negative energy there for the time. So yeah, you just have to be careful. Those little tabletop fountains and stuff, I don't believe have enough water to activate something bad. So if you love a tabletop fountain and you like the sound of it, the way it's said that energy collects is like you use a big fish tank. There's some things like that. So you have to have an open water source, a basin with water in it, little pump putting a little bubbles out. So
Right.
you just it's really a generation of the energy. And
Okay.
so, yeah, tabletop fountains are fine. You can kind of put those anywhere. So,
Okay. So I want to ask you a question because when I was younger, and it was when those small little fountains were very popular, and I had one in my bedroom, and I started getting earaches. Do you know what? The only way I could explain it was my ear must have been really trying to focus in on that while I was sleeping, because it was while I was sleeping, I'd wake up with a terrible earache from it. And then once I moved it out of the room, the problem went away.
yeah, so it's perfect that you say that because I did forget to mention you do not want water in your bedroom.
Oh,
It's too active for when you're sleeping. And so I always say keep fish tanks out of the bedroom. I mean, like images of water are fine from my perspective, but it's the sound. And sometimes the sound does create, especially if it tends to be annoying to you. Like if you don't love the sound of it, then that's a whole separate, it's not really promoting a great energy within your home. So yeah. So yeah, keep water out of the bedrooms. It's kind of too active too. Like if you think about it, our bedroom is meant to be calm, like we mentioned earlier. So yeah, I would just keep the water out of the bedroom.
okay. Okay. So is there anything that you would recommend for families if we are like a tip that you would leave for us if we want to really start working into this? Where would you say for us to begin?
Kind of like we talked about earlier at the front, not just making sure that um, the front entrance is just decluttered, but even like old leaves, like really around our home, not just specifically in the front, but around our home, affects us too. So I mean, sometimes we'll tend to, maybe we've done a renovation, we've piled some stuff up on the side of the house. Really the energy, it comes from our external environment. That's the biggest way we get energy, from everything that surrounds us. Again, feng shui kind of comes from the name wind and water, and that kind of gives us a clue into how important it is for our external environment. And cleaning up around us, making sure there's not old trash, old leaves, old piles of stuff, really that's going to kind of promote the flow of energy around our home and be able to bring energy into our home.
Okay. So usually I ask that in the sense of like closing everything out, but you've sparked a thought in me, because we do have an area where we have kind of left. I won't even say what it's from because then everybody will know like how old is how long it's been around.
It's okay.
But it's like plywood that we've had over the years. Could that be affecting things within our home? Like if we're constantly dealing with certain things breaking or a lot of water damage type situations occurring, could that be like part of that whole energy where we might be, I don't know, creating a block or something? I'm not sure exactly what that would be doing.
Yes, that's exactly right. So again, one of the biggest ways we receive energy is from our environment. They say about 70% of our feng shui comes from our external environment. And
Okay.
that kind of talks about in relation where we are in relation to like mountains and water, kind of looking at that, but looking more at the kind of our macro environment, just looking at our yard or space, what do we see around our home? Things like electric pylons, telephone poles, some of those things like that we can't control,
Right.
and it's okay. But looking at what we can control, and build up and stuff like that, of clutter, trash, it does kind of stop the flow of energy. And sometimes, again, I kind of mentioned the yearly energies, monthly energies, even daily energies will change. But one of the I think the biggest impacts was when the yearly energies change, which occurs around February. Sometimes we'll see a big shift in either our health or, something is breaking in our home or maybe a relationship issue. And we're like, I don't know what happened. I don't know what's going on. And it's because maybe a negative energy has moved into the space that has negative what are called negative forms or negative features. And that could be where we have clutter, where we have trash, maybe where those telephone poles are. So yeah, so it kind of aggravates the area if there's a negative energy there. So just kind of clearing that away and taking that away could help if you have some issues going on.
Okay. That's very interesting. All right. So do you have a lot of information about these different, I know you mentioned the one article, but if someone's really interested in learning more about maybe the direction and these different energies that affect us through the years, do you have information on your website or?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Every month I put out a monthly energy report, and I also do Chinese astrology. So I talk about animal signs, and I talk about the Feng Shui areas and so I'll do that on the podcast, and I have a companion blog that has all kinds of information in it.
Okay. So tell us where we can find you.
I'm at learnfengshui.com.
Okay. And your podcast?
It's Learn Feng Shui.
Okay. Make it simple.
Yes.
Okay. And is there anything?
Really oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was just going to say, I named it that because I really tried to simplify a lot of things. And so if somebody comes into Feng Shui, they're like, okay, I can understand this thing.
No, and it's great. It's very interesting, definitely very interesting and I think for many, I don't know if you deal with this, kind of hard to wrap your head around it in a sense, just because it's something you can't see. So it is very hard. I don't know. Do you get a lot of pushback from people?
Not really.
No? Okay.
So I'll just say this. Have you ever moved your furniture around and you're like, oh, it feels really good in here?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then have you ever gone to somebody's house and you're like, it has a certain feel to it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the way I explain Feng Shui.
Yeah.
So, yeah, has a certain feel to it. So I think that's the easiest way I think you can kind of think about it. If you go to, maybe you've gone to your grandparents' house and, they tend to like maybe hoard and they don't open their blinds a lot, they don't air their house out, it feels a certain way. Maybe it feels very oppressive, but you go to somebody's house that's, very, they open their windows up. It's, they kind of, keep it decluttered and stuff like that. Yeah. It's going to feel different. Yeah.
Okay. And that made me think of one more thing, and then I'll let you go. So for lighting, if we think of lighting, if you have like a dark space, just because of where it is in the house and doesn't have a lot of windows, do you recommend anything for lighting?
Yeah, so there's a school of thought in Feng Shui, and they talk about the uplighting. And so if you want to raise the energy in a room, you can get a light that's cleaning up, and out. And you can definitely buy light bulbs that mimic this like sunlight and stuff like that.
Okay.
There's those type of bulbs.
Okay. Perfect. All right. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day for this.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you for taking time out of your day to listen to our podcast. I hope you found this information valuable and hope that you can immediately use some of the information that was provided. Make sure to check out the show notes for all of the links that we discussed today. As a mom myself, I understand that at times you can feel alone and are looking for a sense of community. It is my goal to help bring moms together to find each other, to help support one another, and also help raise healthy humans. That is why I've created a Facebook group. It is free for you to join, and you can go to Moms Raising Healthy Humans. I also have upgraded our membership portal for you if you are interested. I now have 3 tiers because I want to make sure that everybody is moving more no matter where you are. So the first one, if you happen to like our weekly movement snacks, you're going to want to join our first tier. It's $5 a month, and you will have a daily movement exercise that you can do. If you want to move even more, you might want to try one of our other memberships where we go even deeper, and you can join us for live Zoom classes. Remember, it is my goal to help bring moms together in a healthy and supportive community, and I feel like that's what I'm doing with the FormFit community. So head to FormFit, FormFit online.com to see our new website and to learn more.